You have a team that you're on the fence about. Is there a particular individual that's just not performing and you're not sure? Do you give them one more chance or you just let them go? Hello, this is Daniel Hendy, and today I'm going to tell you, if you have to fire somebody, how to do it and get a thank you. So you've made some mediocre hires. You may even inherited this team, and they're just not where you need them to be, and you're reaching the end of your patience. You're looking at it and you're saying, I want this team to work out. I just don't see it happening. So what do? So all of us learned our skill set, our trade through schooling, courses that you've taken, experience that you've gotten over the years, but nobody really teaches you good management. You have some examples in front of you, and I'm sorry to say most of them are not that good. So if you have examples, they're bad examples. It's up to us to seek that knowledge and see what works for us through experimentation and see how it allows us to be a manager we would want to work for. So if that day comes and we need to make that decision to part ways, we know we've done everything in our power to set this person up for success. I'm going to give you my techniques on how I get every individual on my team to reach their potential. So first of all, if you're looking for an A player, you need to know what that means. You need to have a well-defined meaning of what A player is. What are the soft skills? What are the hard skills? What are the personality traits that you're looking for? Have you defined the roles and responsibilities of the position you're hiring for? So I first put together a document about the role and responsibility of this particular position. Now in the responsibilities document, I put a very clear definition of the role that this person needs to take. I put 5 KPIs, key performance indicators, that I sometimes refer to as the 5 pillars of success, so that they know if they're doing well or not. Now each KPI, each key performance indicator, needs to be objective and not subjective, and measurable, preferably through a number. Now, before I give this document to my team member, I ask them to come up with a document of their own. And I see if their document matches my document. If I realize how far off the definition of their role in my eyes is versus what they see their roles' responsibilities are. So this tells you the level of disconnect that you may have with your employee. That's number one. You're not communicating well. What you're expecting them to do, they don't realize is part of their responsibility. So having a well-defined document that lists off key performance indicators that are objective and measurable clears the air so that everybody knows exactly what is requested so that they can deliver on those. The next portion of this document is where I ask them, you now know what I request of you. And these 5 pillars of success will make sure that you are doing well in this company. Now, my question to you is, what do you need from me and your team members to achieve these goals? And as long as those requests are reasonable, I'm going to deliver them to you so that you don't have an excuse not to deliver on those KPIs. The last part of this document is where I ask them, what are your goals? Where do you want to be in 5 years? I know that sounds cliche, but the truth of the matter is, you'll be surprised how many people tell you they don't want to be in the position they're in. I'm not talking about ranking up. I'm talking about a completely different path. If you talk to somebody who's a software engineer and tells you, you know what, I've always wanted to be a florist. You know their heart is not in it. You know this is not what they want to do. If they come to you and they say, yeah, I really don't like being in front of a computer all day. You're a software engineer. You picked the wrong profession. So you know where you stand and you know how much to invest in this person when you know they're not in this for the long haul. Now, periodically, whether that's once every few weeks, once a month, once a quarter, I meet with every individual and I score the 5 KPIs for them from my perspective. Again, these are objective KPIs, so you should be able to back it up with data, and show them what they're doing well and what they could do better at. Now, this is really just for coaching. This isn't for ramifications, do this or else. It's really so that they understand where they're at. Are they doing well? Are they not doing well? And if they're not doing well, how can we help improve? Give them recognition on a good job. However, on the bad areas, you want to say, hey, this is where we have room for improvement. And they need to understand we're not looking at a single data point. We're looking at a trend. Let me give you an example. If you have a C player operating at a low level, but they're trending up, that's a good thing. There's improvement there. But if you have an A player and they're trending down, you're worried. Maybe they're on their way out. Maybe they're looking for another job. Maybe they lost their passion. So it's all about a trend, not a single data point. The next thing I do is I make sure all our team members have ownership of an initiative. Now, what does that mean? That means if they have a small portion of a process, if they have a small portion of the product, let them own it. Let them take pride in it. Let them see the success of their own work on one portion so that they see the fruit of their labor. From defining a roadmap and what we should work on next, understanding it from a business perspective. They should be in a meeting with other stakeholders so that they understand why they're doing what they're doing and how to measure success. Not just check, I'm done with this task and I'm done. No, did we do it well? Was the hypothesis met? If this was supposed to reduce churn, did it reduce churn? Increase sales, did it increase sales? Increase efficiency? Whatever it may be, let them understand how to measure success. Let them own that number. Let them contribute to that number so that they take pride in it. They can own it for better, for worse. But if you're micromanaging them, the common excuse is, I just did what I was told. And if you lead them in blindly where they don't have all the data, where they're not in communication with the stakeholders, they're constantly going to be one step removed, playing telephone, and still relying on you. Let them own it. Let them be responsible for it, for better, for worse, and let them take pride in their work. Now, you may ask yourself, I'm dealing with a designer or a software engineer. They should be just doing that one thing. Let somebody else deal with the business logic and the business objectives of it. Do you ask yourself, do you utter the phrase, they just don't get it? Well, maybe that's why, because they're not part of the process. So for them to better understand, they need to be involved. And on the long run, it will save you time with less iterations, better quality up front. They are there to tell you how they can do things better to meet their KPIs because they're vested in it. They were part of the decision making as opposed to being one step removed. Wasn't my decision. I just did what I was told. You want them to be vested in the success of their work. And it's extremely important for them to understand the meaning of what they're doing. You may take the most menial work from moving boxes. Let's say you had a warehouse with boxes that you need to load onto this truck. And every day it's my job to take 100 boxes from the floor and load it onto that truck. And every day I load, sometimes I load 80, sometimes I load 90. It's good enough, I'm not getting fired. Why should I break my back doing this, right? Now, if I told you every box had a meal feeding the hungry, and when I was short 10 boxes, there are 10 families that didn't eat that night. Now I have meaning to my work. It's a completely different equation. I'm not moving boxes. I'm part of a system that feeds the hungry. So I won't slack because I know it makes a difference. There is an effect to my work. I'm not saying every company has such a righteous cause. All I'm saying is it makes a difference when people understand and appreciate what part they play in the overall scheme of things and how important it is that they do their work. Next is teach them how to fish. Wait, what? The old saying, you give a man a fish, you feed him for one day. You teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So when your team comes to you with questions, now remember, you've already given them ownership, you've already explained the meaning of their work. When they come to you with questions, make sure you don't just give them the answer. Now let me be clear here. You should have answers. You shouldn't be oblivious of what's going on. However, you shouldn't feed that to them because you're making them dependent on you. You're not teaching them critical thinking. You're not teaching them to make a decision and measure its success or failure quickly and adjust. So what you want to do is guide them in the decision-making process. I know this is painful, especially when you're always on crunch for time. Believe me, I know. Time is one resource I wish I had more of. When they come to you, tell them you need to come with a problem and a suggested solution. So start that culture. You hear that a lot in a lot of successful businesses because it's a good practice. Now, when they bring their solution and you know that solution is maybe not sufficient, don't just knock down their solution. Ask them questions. Well, what about this scenario? Well, what happens when this happens? What happens if the customer did X, Y, or Z? And you just allow them to expand their mindset so that they fully understand, is their solution robust or not? It's like playing chess. You need to think 2-3 steps ahead And this is one of your skill sets. That's why you're managing. But you need to instill that in them. So you build up that critical thinking, decision making, ownership of a decision, figure it out quickly if it's failing or succeeding, and then adjust. You build that in them. So now they're less dependent on you and they will own the decision. It wasn't your decision. It was their decision that you helped them conclude. And even if you know that they're slightly wrong, that they may make a mistake that's not so devastating to the business, let them make the mistake. Let them make the mistake. The investment that you make in a small adjustment and learning from it is extremely valuable. It'll save you so much time in the future, and that person will then help you educate the others. Here's one very important point I make to anybody who wants to take ownership. And this idea really resonates in the book, Extreme Ownership. If you want to lead an initiative, you must take responsibility. I'm not saying take blame. I'm saying take responsibility. If a decision was made and it failed, regardless if it was your fault or not, I'm not looking for fault. I'm not looking for blame. I'm looking for responsibility. Me as a manager, I'm looking for team members who will stand up and own it and say, I will fix it. I'm not saying take blame for it. I'm asking for responsibility. Who is going to help me fix it? Once it's fixed, we can talk about what happened in the past. But most managers are forward thinking, just thinking about the future. How can we get past this? Then I help them define the bar. When a bar is set, you'll notice everybody has sort of a different bar. Some bars are high, some bars are low, and everybody's just trying to do what they think is the bare minimum. But what is the bare minimum? It's wherever you set the bar to be. If the bar is high, your bare minimum is pretty good. If your bar is low and lower than mine, then for me, it's not a passing grade. So to help them define and raise the bar, when somebody brings a finished product to you, let's call them a developer who finished a web page, an app, or whatever it may be, and they bring it to you. What you need to ask them is, if you were given more time, what would you do better? I don't think ever asked that question and the answer was nothing. It's perfect. Never. Because anybody who's honest always knows they could do a better job. So the question is when they come back and you say, what can you do better? And they come to you with a laundry list of things. Or they come to you with obvious things. Oh, I would make it bug-free, or I would make it scale better, or I would make it look better. Now the follow-up question is, so why didn't you? If you're the one who estimated the time to complete a particular project, why wasn't that part of the initial requirements? Why is that requirement sort of a like to have, not a must have? And so you explain to them where your bar is set so that they can understand the passing grade is here, not here. It's important that you're matching expectations in quality and performance of outcome of any particular product. So that next time when you ask them how long would this project take, that they already bake in quality and performance into their work so that when they bring it back to you and you say, what can you do better? And they will come back to you with answers that you say, you know what, the cost benefit isn't there. Let's go with what we have. Now, the next point, everybody knows I preach all the time, acknowledgement. I am so tough on my teams, and it's extremely important that when they do a good job, that you stop and you recognize their hard work and you pat them on the back and say thank you. It's really important that you do that, and it's really important that you do that amongst their peers. So now that you've defined their roles and responsibilities, now that you have clear and measurable KPIs, now that you've given them ownership and acknowledgement when they do a good job, and you've tried everything in your power to make them succeed, you've given them one-on-one coaching, you've scored their KPIs so that they know there's a trend going up or going down, you've explained to them on what they can do better, and you've done everything in your power to make sure they succeed, and it's still not working. This is where you know with a clear conscience that maybe this is not a great fit. And unfortunately, sometimes that's the case. And so what I do is I put somebody on a performance plan where I explain to them, look at your trend, look at where it's at. I want this to work. I want you to be here. I want you to be a productive part of this team. However, this is the bar. I need you to be at it or above. Now that you've given them feedback 1, 2, 3 times, you put them into a performance plan where they understand there's a clock on this. If I don't pass this line, this bar, I don't exceed it, they know what the outcome is. And that they understand they lost their job. They didn't get fired. You didn't want them to get fired. You tried everything in your power to keep them and to make them productive, and that they understand it just wasn't a good fit, so that they lost that position. They may not like it. They're not going to be happy about it, but they come in and they say, you know what? I realize you really did try your best to keep me. Maybe this is not a right fit. Thank you for the opportunity, and go. I've had employees lose their positions and thank me because they know I didn't want that to happen. I tried everything in my power to make it work, and it just didn't work. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get a thank you every time. Those who are honest with themselves will thank you and know that you did try, and you will leave with a good relationship as opposed to a bad one. And they knew and they saw it coming. It wasn't a surprise, and they can at least appreciate that you've done everything in your power to avoid that circumstance.
Daniel Haney does not guarantee that you will receive a thank you and does not bear any responsibility for any profanity that may ensue.
If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. It's free information. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It really is appreciated. And for those of you who unfortunately have some horror stories on this topic, make sure you leave a comment below. I'd love to hear those stories. I hope this video gave you clear and logical steps on how to fire and get a thank you.